for the best part of any build. Brand new wheels and tires. What's going on, guys, and welcome to Yota Xpedition. We have our giveaway Tacoma here in the shop, and if you missed our last video, we took this thing off-roading in its stock form and we found some limitations, including the factory tires, the factory suspension, and lack of skid plates. If you missed that video, make sure to go back and watch it. But in this one, we're going to be taking all that stuff off. We're going to be putting a bunch of brand new stuff on it. It's going to be a huge transformation, so make sure to stay tuned. So let's head over to our workbench. Let's take a look at all the stuff that we're going to be installing on this Tacoma today. All right, guys, right here on the table, we have everything we're going to be installing today on the Tacoma, starting out with this full suspension kit here from Elka. We have fully adjustable front coilovers. We have a dual control here on the dampening, which is really nice for high speed and low speed. We have the brackets to mount those reservoirs. Out of the box where these coilovers are currently set, we're going to have a 2.5-inch lift in the front. Because we're going over 2 inches, we want to correct the geometry on the front of the Tacoma. So we have these upper control arms here from Camburg that we're going to be installing. And then for the rear shocks here from Elka are not going to lift the rear of the Tacoma, but they will allow a lift. So in order to lift it, we have these leaf packs here from Icon. This is going to get the lift we need to match the front. And then we have a set of bump stops here. We have front and rear bump stops from Timbren. So right here on the floor, we have a complete skid plate set from ARB. This is going to protect your oil pan up front, your transmission, and also your transfer case. So we're going to take a look at the factory ones that are under there, see what kind of damage we have, and then we'll get these in place. One of our other limitations was the factory tires. The all-terrains that come on this, they're not very big, they don't have much traction, so we're going to be getting those swapped out. And we also have some brand new wheels here. We have some 285/70 Toyo RTs, and then those are wrapped around some Nomad 502 Arvos. So these are a 17 by 8.5 with a 0 offset. This is going to look really good. It's going to give us a little bit more ground clearance, and it's also going to give us the traction we need when we hit those trails. So let's go ahead, get the Tacoma up in the air, take a look at the damage we got from our trip when we off-roaded this thing stock. We'll get the factory suspension off, the wheels off, and then we'll go ahead and get it prepped for all of the brand new stuff. Let's see what we got. There's some good damage under here, but it looks previous to us because it's kind of rusty already. But this thing is mangled.
These out of the way. Stock skid plates, no bueno. All right, truck's in the air and Corey is getting the stock suspension pulled out. We've done this a bunch of times. We're not gonna break it down, but we're gonna yank out of here, basically tear the truck down as far as it has to go to get ready to put all the brand new parts on.
You know, it'd be nice to have that light that
you left under the customer's car?
Yeah.
Was that Rodney?
Yeah.
You're welcome, Rodney. Free Harbor Freight Light. All right, I got one of the front shocks here. Really impressive, honestly. They're very, very high quality. You have billet everywhere. Everything's full billet construction. This massive reservoir with lots of fluid. That means you're not gonna have problems with it getting hot, affecting the performance of these when you're off-road. You got, like Corey mentioned, the dual control on the dampening, so you have high and low speed to maximize your rock crawling performance and your high speed performance on dirt roads and whoops and things like that. These are also adjustable with a nice little Allen key to lock the adjustment ring It does come with the spanner tool to be able to adjust this on the fly. It's really nice that they're at the top of the shock. This way, when they're installed on the truck, you can easily access it without taking the tire off, I hope. But either way, even if you do have to take the wheel off, it's still easier to access up here, which is nice.
Making noise.
Making noise. These are honestly they're just really impressive. Like, these are so cool. I'm so excited to get these on the trail and see how they ride. This thing's gonna have a lot of weight on it too, so having this preload adjustment is gonna help a lot.
You always have to wait. It's like the harmonics is weird. You like wait a few seconds for it to completely stop making vibration, and then you hit it again and it comes out. Oh. All right, so we got the front suspension pulled out. Next thing we need to do is remove the upper control arms. Now, unfortunately, when they assemble these Toyotas at Toyota, they put the suspension and everything on the frame before they put the body on top of the frame. So now when you try to get the bolt out for your upper control arm, the inner fender or inner wheel well sheet metal is in the way. And the only way you can get that bolt out is if you grab it with some pliers and you bend it out of your way. So we're gonna have to go ahead and do that. I'm gonna try to do it as nicely as we can so we can get that long bolt removed for the upper control arm, and then we'll get the new ones installed from Camburg. All right. So we got the factory upper control arms out. We have a new one here from Camburg. And if I stick this one on top, I just have it flipped upside down so you can get a better comparison. But you can definitely see that this ball joint location is pushed more this way, and that's gonna help correct the geometry of the suspension. All right, so it's the next day. We left off with getting the factory suspension removed. We got the factory upper control arms removed. We got the new ones in there from Camburg, and I got all the metal kind of bent back in place, made it look as best as I can for what we had to do to get that bolt out. Now the next thing we're gonna do, before we get the actual front suspension in place, we're going to unbolt the front sway bar. We're gonna get those sway bar brackets in there, which also have the brackets for the front reservoir. So we're gonna do that first, and then we can get the front suspension in place. So we have our sway bar bracket here and also the reservoir bracket for the passenger side. And we have the bolts that are supplied with that. I'm gonna just throw some blue Loctite on those and we can get this in place and bolt it up. All right, so we just finished up getting the sway bar brackets installed along with the brackets for the reservoir. And what this is gonna do is when you lift your truck, your sway bar is kind of out of OE spec, and it'll kind of be sitting like this on an angle. With these spacers in here, once we put the lift kit in and we go to reattach this to the spindle, it'll be sitting pretty much level, and that's where you want it. That's where it comes from factory. Moving on to the bump stops here on the Tacoma, we have these from Timbren. This is going to be a very simple install. We've done this before, front and rear on Jared's Tacoma. If you guys are looking for a full install on that, you can click the link down in the description and watch that video. But these are going to be very easy. All you're going to do is take a channel lock. We're going to grab the factory one. We're going to break it free. And once you break it free, you can just spin it off by hand. Here we have the factory one taken off, and when we go to put this thing back on, it's going to be exactly the same. You just have an Allen bolt in there you can tighten it down with. But when installing these aftermarket bump stops, the OEM ones are pretty much like a rock. So when you do bottom out the front suspension on your Tacoma, it's pretty harsh. This is a little bit softer. It's going to have a little bit more give. So when you bottom it out, it's going to feel a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get these installed. All right, guys, we got the front bump stops swapped out here with the Timbren ones. The only thing we have left to do on the front end is grease all the fittings for the upper control arms, but we're out of grease, so we're gonna have to wait on that. Definitely don't miss that part because you're gonna end up damaging your upper control arms if you forget to do that. So we need to make sure we come back and get that done. But for now, we're gonna put the truck up in the air a little bit more, and we're gonna get the skid plates done from ARB. We already took the factory ones off earlier, as you saw, so it should be pretty easy to get those installed. Let's go ahead and get it done. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the other two back bolts started while he just does that one.
The threads aren't right.
All right, I'll give it to him. This one, the threads are a little wonky, so we're gonna tap it, clean those threads up. Wow, that is bent. All right, so we finished up these skid plates here from ARB. Now we're gonna jump back into the front suspension. I'm gonna lower this thing down. We got some grease so we can finish up what we needed to do here. We're gonna get the upper control arm greased, and then the front end is gonna be complete. So we're gonna head to the rear then, and we're gonna get all that factory suspension taken out. With the front finished up, we are now moving to the back of the Tacoma. We're gonna get the factory shocks removed, and we're gonna get these leaf springs removed. All right, so we are at the point where we're ready to put the new bump stops on from Timbren. As you can see, there is a huge difference here between the factory ones and the new ones. These are super hard, comes to a point. These are nice and soft and a lot taller as well. And it also comes with a flip kit for the U-bolts. So we're gonna go ahead and get those installed. Gotta lower the stupid spare tire so you can get the bolt out for the driver's side leaf spring. We got the full suspension all installed. Now it's time for the fun part. We're gonna put the brand new wheels and tires on this Tacoma, and that's gonna drastically change the look of this thing. So let's go ahead and grab one of those and show you what we got. All right, so right here, we have our brand new wheels and tires that are gonna be going on the Tacoma. These are wheels from Nomad. These are the 502 Arvos in a gunmetal gray. These are a 17 by 8.5 with a 0 offset. And then we have those wrapped in some Toyo open country rough terrains in a 285/70, pretty much a 33. This is definitely gonna fill those wheel wells and make the Tacoma look a lot bigger. So let's go ahead and get these on. Time for the best part of any build, brand new wheels and tires. I'm gonna put the wheels and tires on the front. I already know I'm gonna have a problem with these front mud flaps, so we're gonna go ahead and remove those. And I'll probably even have to do some trimming on the fender flare down here. There's some plastic. All right guys, we just got the leaf springs all torqued down. So the last thing to do is pull this thing out and see how it really looks. But we're gonna do that tomorrow because we're already past the end of the day and we wanna get out of here. So we'll see you guys in the morning. That sounded good. So as I suspected, we're gonna have rubbing on the backside of the fender flare, right where the mud flap was. So I'm gonna pull this back in, probably just rip the front wheels off, and then I'm gonna do some trimming. We had to do this on our 3rd gen Tacoma. So let's go ahead and get that done. We literally need to button this thing up and get it on the road because we have an appointment for alignment in like 30 minutes. So we're doing some last minute trimming here on these fender flares. Jared's doing a little bit of work on lifting the front up because it was sitting just a little bit too low. So he's lifting the front just a tiny little bit to try to get it a little bit more even with the rear. We gotta get the wheels back on and then we gotta hit the road. All right, fender flares are trimmed, front is lifted a little bit, hopefully enough, and Jared is off to get it aligned. So we'll see him when he gets back.
No rubbing. It didn't rub. On our way for the alignment. First impression of the suspension though, even on road, is really nice. I'm comparing to obviously stock on the Tacoma, but on the road this thing feels pretty good. Shake it down a little, get it to settle.
All right, guys, that's gonna be a wrap for the wheels, tires, and suspension and skid plates on the 3rd gen Tacoma. Jared just got back from getting the thing aligned and it's sitting and driving very good. We did lift up the front a little bit before he took it, and I think it's sitting pretty decent. If anything, it's a little low still in the front, but we are gonna be putting some stuff on the back of this thing in the near future in some of our other videos. So the back might be sitting a little bit lower and getting it level with the front. Tomorrow's a big day. We're gonna be taking this thing back up to FRO where we had it before. We're gonna be hitting that trail that we failed on. Hopefully, now that we have the suspension, the wheels, and the tires, we can get up that. So make sure to stay tuned for that video. Remember, we're building this Tacoma for you guys, so let us know down in the comments what you think about the build so far. Now that we got the wheels, tires, and suspension done, I think it looks great, and we have a ton more on the way. So if you want a chance to win this Tacoma, make sure to head over to the website and get entered today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Here we go again. Hopefully with better results.